This episode of Destructoid is brought to you by Carbonite. Coming up on Destructoid, Dishonored teases us with a sultry screenshot. The PlayStation 4 is better than your PC, according to Jon Blow. And God of War Ascension is a video game you can play. All that and much, much more coming up on Destructoid.
Welcome to Destructoid. I'm Tara Long.
And I'm Max Scoville.
Happy Tuesday, Max.
Happy Tuesday.
You look dashing today. Is that a shirt you're wearing?
I don't know. The sun's shining and everything, and I thought that I would just kind of do the full ensemble this time.
Right. I like it. It's a good look for you.
It makes me feel young.
Oh, you
Makes
look
me feel
young.
Yeah. Like I'm 20.
Yes. 20, maybe a little bit of a stretch.
Okay.
Yeah.
21.
Anyway, lots to talk about today.
Yes.
This has been a super fun week for video games and people who review them. Now that SimCity is mostly behind us, we've got another one to worry about, God of War Ascension. Over on Destructoid, Dale North gave the game high praise. He awarded it a 9 out of 10, but not everyone seemed to agree. Former G4 TV host Adam Sussler posted his review to the Rev3 Games YouTube channel last Thursday, and in it, he expressed criticism with a particular scene in the game, which he described as one of the most violent things he's ever seen in a video game. The scene in question depicts Kratos stomping in a female enemy's face, a Fury to be exact, soon after which he earns a trophy called Bros Before Hoes. Now, many have come out in defense of the game, pointing out that Fury isn't actually killed during that battle and that the achievement may not even be referencing Kratos. Rather, it's referring to a different male character who betrays the Fury after her fight with Kratos. Now, I have personally never been a huge fan of the God of War franchise, so I can't really intelligently comment on this scene as it relates to the series as a whole. But Jim Sterling wrote up an article about this very issue that perfectly sums up my problem with it, and really with humor in games in general. Video game companies, stop using achievements and trophies as punchlines, especially if you in any way want to convey your game as a serious or emotional experience, because it threatens to undermine the entire thing. It's also just one of the cheapest jokes there is. It's like a Twitter hashtag joke. Do you know how many video games have an achievement called Get to the Chopper? A joke based on a movie that's over 25 years old. Let's see, shall we? Tomb Raider, World of Warcraft, Dead Space 3 Awakened, GoldenEye 007 Reloaded, Fear 3, Aliens vs. Predator, Super Thunderblade, Crackdown 2, Operation Flashpoint Red River, Section 8 Prejudice, and that is just the first 10. Now, Max, you are a paragon of humor. What is your take on this whole thing?
Look, I think Adam just blew this all the way out of proportion. I mean, I have to sit about 2 feet closer to him than you do, and it's just he went on about it all the time. And I know that he really thinks that people don't seem to understand that even though there's a little bit more scene before you get the trophy, that, you know, it's still relating to the idea of Bros being Kratos and this Orcos character, and it still remembers and reminds people of the gender of the Fury. He's just been going on about it. Look, he's just trying to be a white knight.
I totally agree.
Do you remember that time that you like twisted your ankle and you forgot your jacket and all of a sudden it was raining, it was like 20 degrees colder, and he offered to give you a ride home? I mean, it's exactly the modus operandi of that guy. All I can say is that, you know, he's just looking for a problem where he can to get the hits on all of his videos. I'm just glad he doesn't watch this show.
Oh.
But you know what I always say? Video games.
Video games.
All right, the PlayStation 4's basic specs, bells and whistles have been public knowledge for almost a month now, and there's still plenty about Sony's new console we don't know yet, like how much it'll cost, or when exactly it's coming out, or what the console itself looks like. But what we are learning is how developers feel about the new hardware. Now, during a talk with Gaming Bolt, Linus Blomberg, the chief technical officer for Avalanche Studios, those are the guys that made the Just Cause series, they said that, quote, the consoles desperately need a boost since having been overtaken in terms of performance by PCs several years ago. I'm glad Sony decided to go with 8 gigabytes of RAM because it means that the PS4 will outpower most PCs for years to come. Now, while these comments undoubtedly ruffled the feathers of the PC crowd, keep in mind that he said most PCs, and that most PCs aren't high-end gaming rigs designed to run Crysis 3 on ultra super mega high settings. And perhaps one of the most surprising things to come out of the PS4 announcement was the timed exclusivity of Braid creators Jon Blow's The Witness. He also praises the PS4's power, but also sees Sony as being more receptive to the independent game scene. Speaking to Edge Online, he says, "I've had a bad time working with Microsoft in the past," unquote. He continued, quote, "Maybe not super bad, but a moderately bad time in terms of business relationships." And as far as how he sees Microsoft positioning their new console, to me, they talk about a console that is not strictly about games. It's trying to be the center of the living room device. And you know, Tara, since Adam and I, do have that 2 feet closer relationship, he has mentioned how at the PS4 announcement, he was rather taken aback at how game-centric it was, that they weren't taking this route by making it at the living room center where there's all this media. I mean, do you think that's an effective strategy?
It depends, because I don't know exactly what Microsoft's sales numbers are for their console versus the PlayStation 4. I will say that I think an increased focus on peripherals like Kinect is maybe not the way to gain a hardcore following. But at the same time, I sort of understand Microsoft. I understand Microsoft's dependence on media, because I do think that video apps and all of these things that you're seeing in consoles and dashboards now are really like the future. As far as PlayStation goes, I feel like they put up a really good press conference, and I'm excited to see a focus more on gaming than peripherals, although they didn't really have too much to show off.
I wasn't exactly thrilled about all the games, but this whole idea of the indie games being, that Sony's trying to draw them in, that could get very, very
and
interesting.
Microsoft has a poor track record of working with indie game developers. So.
Yeah, it's been a tough road.
Yes, it has. While we're on the subject of next-gen consoles, Hideo Kojima has offered up an interesting proposal on how developers can ease the burden of next-gen development costs. This was in an interview with Edge Online recently, where he suggested that video games adopt the television show format, where studios will release a pilot episode first to sort of test the waters, and then enter into full production after, depending on audience reaction. So this is sort of being done already, albeit in a much less obvious way, by Telltale, whose games are typically released as a series of 4 or 5 episodes over a period of several months. Obviously, this is not exactly the same, since the rest of the game, in Kojima's case, would be released as one. But it does offer similar advantages. For one, developers wouldn't have to sink 4 years of their lives into a project that may or may not fail, and of course, publishers can get a good idea of how the title is actually going to perform once it's released. This also allows for a level of audience feedback that publishers just cannot get from play testing and beta testing, which is something that Kojima thinks could add a social aspect to game creation. Interesting. When asked whether he thinks next-gen development teams are going to be bigger due to the increased power of the consoles they have to develop on, Kojima responded by saying that while it is possible to make games more realistic, it doesn't mean you necessarily should. He said, quote, "You have to prioritize, and that is what's going to separate the teams that succeed from the teams that don't." And bringing this back to the topic of the PlayStation discussion, I do think it's interesting that a lot of the next-gen games that they showed didn't look like they were really that far ahead in terms of graphics.
And I like the idea of the social creation of the games. I mean, we could get a lot of those guys that are defending God of War and that trophy. I think they can make a really interesting game.
I do too. At the same time, I fear what an audience might do if they know they're allowed that level of feedback, because entitlement is something that you see a lot in this industry. And I don't know, I'd be kind of wary if I was a developer of letting people get their hands into it too much.
I think they're a creative bunch. All right, now Tara, you know I love Star Wars.
Yes, you do.
Star
love
Wars,
Star Wars.
That's my thing. Now, whenever we discuss Star Wars games, or the recent lack thereof, a game that almost inevitably gets mentioned is Battlefront, and how people want a new sequel very badly. Now, yesterday, some information surfaced that isn't quite the good news everyone's been waiting to hear, but it's a step in the right direction. Maybe. You guys might remember last year, a domain name and some virtual box art surfaced for a game called Star Wars First Assault, which appeared to be an XBLA title. Now, yesterday, Kotaku dug up a few screenshots of what's being described as a Battlefront predecessor. First Assault doesn't have the name Battlefront on it, which is allegedly because it's missing 2 trademark Battlefront elements. That's Jedi Knights and vehicles. Now, according to Kotaku's source, the game doesn't reuse any of the bits and pieces from the work that was done on the ill-fated Battlefront worked on by Free Radical and Slant 6. Now, First Assault would be used to test the waters, and if it sold well enough, it'd theoretically lead to a new Battlefront game. That's only assuming that it actually gets released. Apparently, things are sort of in limbo at LucasArts right now, and ever since Disney bought Lucasfilm, it's unclear what's happening with both First Assault and Star Wars 1313. Now, Star Wars fans were also saddened earlier this week to hear that the Clone Wars cartoon is being canceled, but they were quite relieved to hear that the animated spoof series, Star Wars Detours, is postponed indefinitely. At this point, we'll just have to see if Disney takes the same approach with LucasArts.
Star Wars games.
Star Wars games.
I guess those are becoming a much bigger thing now.
Yeah, I remember that Obi-Wan game that was on the Xbox.
Yep.
Back when I was yay high.
Oh, Star Wars. You'll have to show me your tattoo later in private.
Okay.
In the meantime, we're going to take a second to thank our sponsor, and then we'll be back with more news. Guys, accidents happen. It's a fact of life. There's nothing you can do to stop it, but there are things you can do to prevent it, like getting Carbonite. Carbonite protects your pictures and other files from a computer crash, fire, theft, accidental deletion, pretty much every disaster known to man by automatically and continually backing up your files and keeping them safe and secure off-site so you never have to remember to back up again. Whether you have 1, 2, maybe even 20 computers at your home or small business, Carbonite is simply the better backup plan. Over 1 million customers trust them to protect their files, and with plans starting at just $59 a year, there has never been a better time to try. Head over to Carbonite.com to start your free trial and use the offer code DESTRUCTOID to get 2 bonus months with your purchase. Again, that is Carbonite.com, and the offer code for 2 bonus months is DESTRUCTOID. All right, so one last piece of news before we go. The Dishonored Twitter account has been teasing us all day like some kind of 2-bit trollop with some big news that they're supposed to reveal tomorrow, and word on the street is it's gonna be something related to their first piece of story-based DLC that they announced late last year. So the account posted this teaser screenshot, which appears to be from the perspective of one of Dodd's assassins from the opening scene of the game. And if we had to guess, we're gonna say this DLC might put you in the shoes of one of those assassins, perhaps letting you witness some of the game's key events from a different angle. In any case, this is just wild, rampant speculation, which we do a lot of on this show.
Really?
Because we're professionals.
Game
Max.
industry. We're good at that.
So we're gonna have to wait until tomorrow to find out what the DLC is actually about. So if you want up-to-the-minute information, be sure to follow the Dishonored Twitter account. It's just @Dishonored. If you're hungry for more info. And of course, we're going to be recapping it on this week's live show, which is happening a little later than usual this week. It's going to be happening at Friday, 4:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time now, which is a thing. Yeah, that happens
savings of daylight
here in America. Yes. So that is going to be happening here on youtube.com/detoid. I hope you can join us. I'm sure Max would love it too, right, Max?
I'm excited about this. I can wait an extra hour, and we can talk about more of the Dishonored.
Oh, let's do it. See you guys on Friday.
See you then.